To my lecturer and my fellow classmates. Today, as a group, we like to discuss and present our assignment 2 regarding the Beirut explosion to 2020. It's a Lebanon explosion that occurred in the Beirut. So we are 5 of us in our group. First of me, Yamuna Devi Palachandran, and following Nur Shamimi Filza, Fatin Najwa, Nurul Shazana, and Nur Aisha binti Muhammad Arzi. They will introduce themselves before they will present. As this is the example of pictures that explosion that occurred in the Lebanon Beirut. Let me show some example explosion that occurred in Lebanon Beirut. So this is the example pictures that occurred in the Lebanon. It was very drastically explosion. It's a big explosion. Before, let me introduce what the case about. It is a explosion that occurred in the Lebanon Beirut. It is called the port of Beirut, where the tradings of things are actually happens in there. So on 4th August 2020, a large amount of ammonium nitrate stored at the port of the city of Beirut, the capital of Lebanon, exploded, causing at least 204 deaths and 6,500 injuries, and almost $15 billion in property damage, and leaving an estimation 300,000 people are homeless. This is the what really actually happened in the explosion, due to the explosion. Okay, the reason is a cargo of 2,750 tons of substance equivalent to around 1.1 kilotons of TNT has been stored in the warehouse without a proper safety measures for the previous 6 years. It is a ship that content of this kind of ammonium nitrate are stored. The real explosion was preceded by a fire in the warehouse that are located in the port of the Beirut. Due to the small fire explosion in the warehouse, it reflected to the cargo ship in the same time. That's why the explosion occurred in the blast of small by the small of the. This blast was felt in Turkey, Syria, Israel, Palestine, and part of the other Europe, and was heard in the scrapers more than 240 kilometers away. Major characteristic in this case is there are 4. First is Port of Beirut, where the ownership of the government of Lebanon, where the real incidents are occurred. Second, Moldav flagship. It is owned by a Russian businessman. The Rockers merchant vessel was carried almost 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate when it docked in the Lebanon, and it was stayed there almost 6 years. And third is warehouse in Beirut port, used to store explosive and chemical, includes nitrates, common components of fertilizer and explosion without any safety. This is the place where the first explosion occurred. And fourth, who are responsible for the whole incident is a Lebanese reader. In the failure to remove the material from the warehouse and relocate them was attributed to mismanagement of this port. It is also a corruption of the government and inaction of the flag register, country, and ship owner. Ship owner I mentioned was by the Rockers in Maldivic flagged ship.
So this is the background of the port of Beirut. It is actually the main port in Lebanon. It is one of the largest and busiest ports on the eastern Mediterranean. The port has been nicknamed the Cave of Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves. In 1887, during Ottoman rule, the port was granted to a French company. In 1920, Lebanon come under French administration under the mandate for Syria and the Lebanon. Much of the port was damaged during the Lebanese Civil War, and various parts of the port were under the control of various armed militias. In 1976, all shipping at the port stopped for 9 months due to militia clashes. In 1990, the port of Beirut came under direct ownership of the government of Lebanon.
So we move to the ways to prevent. One of the way to avoid this incident is the authorities can tighten the regulations regarding ammonia nitrate storage methods. Ammonia nitrate should be stored away from fuel and not exposed to high temperatures. It is because ammonia nitrate is manufactured as tiny bits like cooking salt. It is generally safe to trade, but storing it may be a challenge. Other than that, every country should take seriously to avoid any incident related. For example, many countries in the European Union require ammonia nitrate mixed with calcium carbonate to make it more safe. The US also tightened its laws.
Explosion happened on the 4th of August 2020 at 6 p.m. local time. In Malaysia, it happened at 11 p.m. What happened is that an explosion has occurred at a port in Beirut, and the authorities have run an investigation and found out that the cause is the ammonium nitrate that they have confiscated a few years back. And in this incident, a lot of people has been arrested, including Igor Grechuskin, the captain, and the Karalambos Manoli, which is the owner of the MV Roses. MV Roses is the ship that is illegally docked at the port. The number of accused in the investigation has gone up to 25 people as of 19 August 2020. And the accused also included the Prime Minister Hassan Diab and 3 former ministers. These ministers was charged with negligence. Before the explosion occurred, the fire was caused by a careless welding near the warehouse. In this warehouse is where the confiscated ammonium nitrate and a few of stashes of fireworks are stored. So the fire has light some of the stashes of fireworks in the warehouse. The first explosion occurred was likely triggered by the fireworks in the warehouse, and that explosion heavily damaged the building. After a few seconds, the second explosion occurred, and this explosion can be felt about 240 km or 150 miles away. This explosion has produced an orange-red color smoke, and that was caused by the nitrogen dioxide.
In conclusion, the Beirut explosion is an emergency that creates a chaotic situation whereby it affects the loss of property, huge number of injuries, and 180 deaths. Identifying the main cause of the Beirut explosion must be done at first for further investigation. This year, the whole world focused on the Beirut explosion, and it opened many eyes of people. Most of them want to have proper guidelines for safety, which is provided under the section of International Social Security Association (ISSA). The aim of this proper guideline is to provide a better regulation and practice to handle the hazardous chemical. In other words, the company that deal with hazardous chemical need to be alert and aware of the regulation. The company needs to follow the regulation Standard Operating Procedure (SOP) and comply with safe storage while handling practice for the hazardous chemical, especially ammonia nitrate. Not only that, an expertise team of safety and health must evaluate the hazard and risks that might happen from day-to-day activities to avoid an incident. For example, they must have regular site safety and health and proper maintenance to ensure the place is safe. Ammonia nitrate must be avoided from high temperature and high explosive material to ensure that the chemical will be safe properly. The company must use appropriate hazard identification tools that help in mitigating hazard, for example, checklist analysis and safety audit. As we know, ammonia nitrate is one of hazardous chemical, so the people that handle the hazardous chemical need to have a good knowledge, skill, experience, and alert with the management of ammonia nitrate. They must have enough training that comply with the safety and health in handling the hazardous chemical.